This crazy world is telling you your sons can be daughters and your daughters can be your sons. When will the madness stop? Never. So you have to decide, will you comply or defy? They tell us all, you will own nothing, eat bugs, and be happy. Is this why America's largest food processing plants and food supply plants keep burning down? Do you really think this is a coincidence? Of course not. The system is telling us right to our faces what they have planned for us. You have a choice. Comply or simply defy their plan for us all. Defy the system's plan and execute your own plan. Abundant, safe, secure natural food supply. Introducing the Food Forest Bible. This bestseller by Jovan Hutton Pulitzer is the single most complete, executable, easy-to-follow plan for sustainable, self-managing food production for self-sufficiency and food security. For the first time ever, a coffee table, heirloom quality full color book which unlocks the ancient secrets of creating a food forest. Imagine planting in a way which requires no digging, no pesticides, and creates massive ancient food abundance. No fooling. Food forests are the ancient secret to planning and planting once. And have your own Garden of Eden, which will feed your families for decade after decade. Buck the system. Buck the New World Order and order your very own copy of Jovan Hutton Pulitzer's Food Forest Bible. Learn how to create a sustainable, self-managing, natural food production for self-sufficiency and food security for your family. Side yard, small yard, backyard, backlot, or even lots of acres, the Food Forest Bible works for everyone. Order on Amazon, hardcover, softcover, or ebook. Don't comply. Expertly defy the system.
Hey guys, welcome to the program. Do me a favor, please. Raise a finger and share this program. I am going to provide you with something today that will certainly make you think, and it might rock your world. Let me show you something real quick. This is a snapshot of the brain from the side. It's basically a scan. You're seeing it. And we're going to talk about that thing called the prefrontal cortex. There's a reason I'm doing this. I want you to see the one on the left, which is healthy. I want you to see the one on the right, which is unhealthy. Now, in order to do this, I'm going to use science and history together to take you on this journey because it's something you need to learn and understand. And by the way, immediately following this broadcast, we will jump over to my locals. If you're on Rumble right now, by the way, folks, thanks for the one thumbs down. I like my haters being here all the time. Make sure you click save, follow, subscribe, the whole bit. But if you're on Rumble at the moment, you're going to see a red oval. And on that oval, you can join me over in locals where we have far more direct conversations than we even have here. We're going to talk about some key findings we've never talked about before in Arizona, what has to do with the full forensic audit in Arizona. Today's program is brought to you by the fine folks at Goldco. These guys rock. That's why we partner with them. Folks, here's what I'm asking you to do. I'm just asking you to go to jovanlovesgold.com. It's so very easy. jovanlovesgold.com. Okay? I want you to request your free kit, your information on how to understand gold and silver. I've shown you many times that there's going to be something coming forward in our monetary system. It's going to affect everybody watching this broadcast, listening to it. And so now is the time to protect your money with gold and silver. Feed your brain, folks. Feed your brain. That's all I'm asking you to do. Nobody's responsible for you except you. And I know you're experiencing a lot of stress. That's why we still have this going on. I'm asking you to go to cbdistillery.com. Remember, 25% off everything. Why? Because the holidays are hectic. Family drama, last-minute shopping, late nights can make it feel like an endurance test that you're trying to get through. That's why I want to give you the ultimate holiday survival plan, CBD from CB Distillery. Seriously, folks, it's everything you need for a merry holiday. Why don't you stuff mom's stocking with CBD for better sleep, or stuff your own? How about give yourself pain relief? You can do this with your fitness friends. A pain stick relief roll-on for your post-workout pain or any pain you may have. And don't forget to grab a little holiday calm for yourself. Every CB Distillery product is made with premium quality, clean ingredients, no fillers, no, junk. It's all clean, nothing artificial, and with over 2 million customers and 100% money-back guarantee, it's a gift that's worth giving. Hey, here's my go-to. This is the roll-on CBD stick. This stuff's the bomb. Ask people in chat. Here's a code if you just want to scan that. So this year, come on. 2 million customers, folks, 100% money-back guarantee. It can't go wrong. So why don't you give yourself, maybe everybody on your list, a gift of better sleep, less stress, pain relief with CBD from CB Distillery. Our promo code for this one's not my name, it's Rumble. Promo code Rumble, 25% off. That's cbddistillery.com. Promo code Rumble, cbdistillery.com. Specific product availability depends upon individual state regulations. Okay, folks. And while you're thinking of holiday gifts, don't forget our Food Forest Bible. When it's cold outside, it's the time to plan and then plant your garden. Do it this way. It'll go for decades and decades. We teach you all kinds of cool things about fruit. Or if you just don't want to dig or weed, you can do that too. But just make sure you see my name on the book. And then don't forget, we still got this $1,000 off for those of you that are interested in freeze dryers. It's still going on. You can scan the code or go to the website, take a pic of the screen. Okay, we're going to dive into your brain. More importantly, I want you to step out of yourself for a moment, and I'm going to have you look back in. I'm going to combine history and science, and I'm going to show you how this works, why the system is disconnecting, yes, the system, that unholy trinity, disconnecting the prefrontal cortex. It's a racket, folks. It's being done on purpose. We'll get started right after this brief message.
Not fixing 2020 will damn our nation forever. The historic Maricopa County full forensic audit effort processed 20,895,610 digital and forensic images of varying formats, resulted in 208 million individual evidence-proof files. The system processed over 58 billion forensic measurements, resulting in over 2 trillion individual base computations. No hopium, no hype, just hardcore forensic evidence. Please make sure the Maricopa County Full Forensic Audit Archives survive. Donate now. So if you want what happened in the 2020 election fixed, then please donate to protect and secure this historic evidence. We can't do it without you. We need you. America needs you. Our future needs you. Please donate now.
Warning. The following program has been rated Gilligaff and is intended for open-minded audiences. If the truth offends you, or if you are allergic to focused intensity, intellectual athleticism, or the occasional F-bomb or even irreverent humor, please switch off now. If your delicate sensibilities need to be worried about or addressed, might we recommend the Underwater Basket Weaving channel to you. Otherwise, sit back, enjoy the wisdom, insight, and wicked sense of humor.
Cut the crap. How many times a day do you want to say that to politicians, the elite, the loony liberals, the fake news media, and the gender-confused, emotional socialist snowflake crowd? Cut the crap is your secret weapon for fighting for our freedoms and our great republic. It all begins with a massive mental enema, freeing you from the toxic news and politically correct views, which constipate your consciousness with stinking thinking. Your host, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer. He's known for calling out politicians and telling them to cut the crap. You've seen him on virtually every television network and listened to to him on Coast to Coast Radio. And now he's here to help you learn to fight for America. Culture, race, and American politics. They all have one thing in common. They all need to cut the crap. Now, here's your host, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer.
Okay, folks, repost this stream. Lift that finger and repost this stream. It's going to be a very interesting one. We're going to talk about how the system, that unholy trinity, the system with media, academia, creates out-of-control monsters. I'm going to give you the science and why it matters, plus how the system has weaponized brain chemistry. Now, you may have noticed a little bit of change in my programming. It is where we are in the process, folks. I have always worked very hard to speak simply, logically, and show you the facts. My job is to make you the smartest patriot in the room, because if you don't know how the system does it to you, you don't know how to fight back. You're going to find me giving you more tools so you understand this process. And so as I just kind of compartmentalize these for you, so think of it as a PhD level lecture, it's the way that I can compartmentalize this teaching and training for you so you're better equipped for what's coming. Okay. You are able to infer by what I did that something's going on and science is creating monsters. I'm going to take you through that process. The image I want you to understand is you're going to look at the image on your screen. The image on your left, okay, is basically the prefrontal cortex, the medial part of it. That is a healthy brain. On the right, you're seeing how it's easily disconnected, right? You can see the difference, right, between the blue and the yellow activation. I'm going to show you right up front, right? I'm going to show you right up front why that occurs. But you need to understand the difference between a healthy brain, that's what's on the left, and what you turn somebody into if you can disconnect the prefrontal cortex. This might help you understand it. You can create weapons. You can create psychopaths. The only difference between the two in the normal functioning is how a psychopath's brain fires. Watch through so you understand everything. And when you have images in your brain for right now, I want you to understand, all of the gang crap that goes on, all of the violence that goes on, why you see it on TV, why you see it in the games. Because it is a scientific formula that's being deployed. And they're doing it in this unholy trinity that we live in. Now, with that said, we're going to go a little bit back in time first. Got a few little pieces to show you. We're going to go a little bit back in time first to help you understand quite possibly where you are. And when you look at this chaos, you go, shit.
Welcome to the 70s. I bet you wouldn't last an afternoon back then. Growing up in the 70s was chaos in the best way. We didn't need fancy entertainment. We had dirt, sunshine, and imagination. I promise you wouldn't survive a morning we woke up, ate cereal with enough sugar to stun a horse, and ran outside like we were avoiding taxes. Back in the 1970s, getting in trouble didn't mean losing your phone. It meant your mom yelling your full name and natives coming out like it was a TV show. We didn't need entertainment. We had sticks, mud, and absolutely zero supervision. Peak childhood.
No Google, just parents saying, "Look it up," and tossing us a dictionary big enough to break toes.
Want music? Hope your vinyl didn't melt in the sun. or your sibling didn't accidentally sit on it.
Hydration, warm garden hose water, vintage flavor.
We were built different and fell off your bike. You stood up, checked if anyone saw, and lied, "I'm fine."
Parents didn't track us, they just yelled, "Be home by dark." And somehow, we survived.
So tell me, could you survive the 70s, or would you tap out before lunchtime?
So you know that's true. I'm going to give you a little more context for those of us that grew up in the 70s or otherwise backwards. It's 70s backwards, right? Because you got to understand what's gone on and what's been done and how it all works. I'm going to give you a little deeper dive to understand the difference in how you more than likely are wired.
There's something fascinating about people who grew up in the 1970s, and psychology can prove it. If you grew up in this era, your brain developed during a rare evolutionary window, a time of total freedom combined with genuine responsibility. And here's what's interesting. Most people who grew up in the 70s look at our current generation and just laugh. Not in a mean way, but because they know something the rest of us don't. They experienced something that can never be recreated. A time so magical, so free, that decades later, they still say things like, "I wish I could go back and stay there," or "We really didn't know how good we had it." To put it even perfectly, we grew up on hose water, we were feral, and it was glorious. So what made the 70s so special? And more importantly, what did it do to your brain that makes you different today? The first trait is what researchers call self-directed problem solving. And it started with one phrase every 70s kid remembers: "Go find something to do." Or "I'll find something for you to do." You knew exactly what that meant. If you dared say you were bored, suddenly you were folding clothes or sweeping floors. So you learned fast. Figure it out yourself. Studies on unstructured childhood show that children who had to create their own entertainment developed significantly stronger executive function and creativity. You weren't handed activities. You weren't scheduled. You had to invent your entire day from nothing. This is why you devoured books, explored on your bike for hours, or spent entire afternoons in the woods building forts. You can say to yourself, "I was never bored. I devoured books or explored on my bike, loved my independence." Your brain learns something modern childhoods skip entirely: how to generate purpose from emptiness. Now, that explains your creativity, but it doesn't explain why you seem almost supernaturally calm in chaos. That comes from this next trait: adaptive risk calibration. You grew up climbing trees that were definitely too high, riding bikes without helmets, throwing rocks at each other, setting things on fire with fireworks. You can say, "That was our internet." Every scraped knee, every minor disaster, every close call was teaching your nervous system something crucial. Research in developmental psychology shows that children who experienced physical risk in play developed better threat assessment and lower baseline anxiety as adults. Your brain learned the difference between actual danger and manageable risk by living it, not by watching it on a screen or having a parent intervene. You broke bones, you got scars, and that honestly felt like a Medal of Honor with a story behind it. This is why you can walk into a crisis and just start solving it while everyone else is panicking. But here's where it gets deeper, and this is the piece most Gen Z will never understand. You carry what researchers call comfortable solitude capacity. You spent hours in your room listening to music. You laid on the grass, just talking to friends. You explored alone. Not because you were lonely, but because there was no screen demanding your attention every 3 seconds. Studies on pre-digital childhood found that people who grew up before constant connectivity show significantly less anxiety when alone with their thoughts. In fact, recent research had participants choose mild electric shocks over sitting quietly for 15 minutes. You'd probably find that ridiculous. You learned early that boredom isn't an emergency. At that time, you know you can never get bored as a kid. Your brain never developed the addiction to constant stimulation that defines modern life. This is why you can wait in long lines without losing your mind. The fourth trait is something psychologists call analog patience, and it shaped you in ways you probably don't even realize. You waited for your favorite show once a week, no binge watching. You took photos and waited days to see if they turned out. You wanted to talk to someone? You memorized their phone number and hoped they were home. Research on delayed gratification shows that people who grew up waiting for things have better impulse control, better relationship outcomes, and better career success. Your entire childhood was training in patience that modern life actively destroys. This is why instant gratification doesn't satisfy you the way it does for younger generations. And here's the trait that ties everything together. You have what I call unsupervised autonomy wiring. At 8 years old, you left the house in the morning and your parents' only rule was be back before the streetlights come on. Nobody knew where you were. Nobody tracked your location. You rode your bike to creeks a mile out of town. You played in the woods. You went to neighborhoods far from home. And a random stranger might even offer you a lemonade and sandwiches after playing in a creek all day. But today, that would result in police calls. Back then, it was normal. Research on childhood independence shows that children who had freedom of movement without constant supervision developed stronger internal motivation and decision-making skills. You had to assess situations, make judgment calls, and deal with consequences yourself. Your parents weren't your friends, they were the authority, and they trusted you to be competent. This is why you can plan, adapt, and think critically without external guidance. Every time you look at today's world and feel out of place, remember this: you're not outdated. You're carrying forward capabilities that are going extinct. The independence that looks like coldness, that's competence. The comfort with silence that looks like antisocial behavior, that's depth. The ability to wait that looks like apathy, that's discipline. You survived a childhood that would get parents arrested today, and it didn't damage you, it built you. Most people will say, I feel honored to have been able to grow up this way. Or, we lived through the best decade to be a kid. And they're right. For a brief moment in human history, childhood was both completely free and genuinely formative. You got to experience something that doesn't exist anymore. A world where kids were civilized and feral at the same time. Drop a comment if you're a 70s kid and who thinks it was the best era to grow up. And if you love research-based content like this that validates who you really are, hit subscribe because we're just getting started.
Okay, so you know in your heart, in your mind, in your soul that that's 100% true. What I'm doing in this program is I'm going to explain to you in very simple terms, with science and with history, how the system, this unholy trinity, creates out-of-control monsters. And I'm going to give you the science and why it matters, plus how the system has weaponized the brain. Now, some people say, well, the boomers did it. You have to understand what went on. Always keep at the front of your mind, double entendre intended. The left is a healthy brain in the prefrontal cortex. The right is the prefrontal cortex disconnect. That is the difference between a normal brain and destruction of our country and planet by generating and creating psychopaths. Now that you know that, I'm going to hop forward a little bit. And now let's look at what goes on today.
Here's more from our political correspondent, Harry Farley.
Violence, demonstrations and racist chanting. It was scenes like this from Maccabi Tel Aviv's game in Amsterdam last year, as well as current intelligence, that led West Midlands Police to advise that the Israeli fans be banned from attending next month's match in Birmingham.
See the solution there? Violence pays off. Immediate gratification. That immediate gratification of violence is the authorities need to ban the Jews from coming to a soccer game to please everybody else. Now, this has gone all the way down to our children today. That's why you see all the gangs. That's why you see fights breaking out and like, you know, KFC and Target and whatever. This is the changing of a society. Compare this to when you grew up to Young Minds' responses now.
Take a look as police in Massillon, Ohio pepper spray football players from Cardinal Ritter College Prep. Both teams, officers were forced to intervene. He says one of the home team's players' face mask was grabbed, and he was then surrounded and chased by Cardinal Ritter players. After giving multiple orders for Cardinal Ritter to leave the field, he says 2 officers deployed pepper spray.
Police use excessive force. Don't tell us that it won't become fatal if we don't speak truth to power about mama, daddy. What did we do wrong? Why did they pepper spray us? Why didn't they pepper spray the other guys who were pushing us too?
Take a look as police in Massillon, Ohio pepper spray football players from Cardinal Ritter College Prep. Parent Ashley Ashburn remembers getting the phone call.
Just yelling in the phone like, "Mom, I just got maced." And I'm like, what?
Her 16-year-old son was playing with his teammates. During the handshake line right after the game is when it all went down.
He was like, "We just got maced by the police." I'm like, what happened?
That's what I wanted to know. So I contacted the police chief of the Massillon Police Department. He shared with me this video showing another angle. The chief says after multiple fights, pushing and shoving between both teams, officers were forced to intervene. He says one of the home team's players' face mask was grabbed, and he was then surrounded and chased by Cardinal Ritter players. After giving multiple orders for Cardinal Ritter to leave the field, he says 2 officers deployed pepper spray.
Even if it was a fight, you don't mace children.
Cardinal Ritter's president called it unacceptable. Neither the school where the game took place nor the school district have shown any interest in supporting an official investigation. We are working to file official complaints with the local police department, she said.
Tell the kids to move, like get off the field. It's time to get off the field. You could even have an announcer announce something over the intercom or anything like that, or, help the coaches get the kids off the field, but not to pull out mace and mace them. No, absolutely not.
You can see that this parent obviously didn't have any information. And news spins it because they want a parent that will spin it this way. The coaches were involved. They were told to get off the field, etc. And so we live in a system that has changed our brain thinking that even the criminals don't think they've done anything wrong.
I'm terribly sorry for the pain that you guys feel, but I cannot take responsibility.
This is a scene of a boy apologizing to the parents of the victim in court. Last year, 14-year-old Remy Cordoba was speeding in a car with his gang accomplices. When he was crossing the intersection, he collided with Pamela Cabrioli, who was driving normally. When the gang members traveling with him were cursing at Pamela, Cordoba, in an attempt to show off, pulled out the gun in his car and fired furiously at Pamela's vehicle. When the police arrived at the scene, 32-year-old Pamela had already lost her life, leaving only her young child crying beside her. After the police arrested Cordoba, he has been defending himself by claiming that he is a minor. When the judge convicted him in court, he filed an appeal and said to the family of the victim,
"I'm not the monster or the murderer I have been painted to be by the Denver's District Attorney Office."
Ultimately, the judge rejected the appeal and sentenced him to life imprisonment as an adult.
I'm a minor. I'm not a murderer. I'm not a bad guy like they painted me, even though I'm in a gang. I have other juvenile arrests. And in fact, I did show that white woman just how badass I was. Okay, this is my setup. You've seen back and forth through time. And it's why I'm covering how the system, this is a formula. This is a chemical formula that has been in play. I'm going to show you how it works, and we're going to focus on the prefrontal cortex. The image on the left is a healthy synapse in the mind. The one on the right, you see the disconnect of the prefrontal cortex. And when you can actually cut that off, you basically create the psychopath. This is a plan, folks. This is a plan. Now, what I'm going to discuss with you is something that's called Hebb's Law. Neurons that fire together, wire together. Kind of like a gang. Neurons that fire together, wire together. So as I take you through this, the baseline I want you to have is what happened to us. So you've got to picture your brain like a city that's full of tiny side streets, okay? Every single time you have a thought or a feeling or do an action, the traffic starts flowing in your brain, taking certain routes. If two routes are used at the same time, two routes, remember I've said you can't be of two minds. If two routes are used at the same time, you're going to understand this when you see images and you hear words. I've told you it's always about words. I'm going to connect this to you so it works. So what happens if you have two routes in your mind that are used at the same time, then what happens is they can become permanently connected. I'll give you an example. Let's say you feel anxious like most people do, okay? Anxious like most people do. And I'm going to get into Hebb's Law, and I'll explain it in greater detail as we go. But what happens is, let's say you get anxious or you are anxious because of media, and then you get on social media. Or let's say you feel calm and you step outside. What happens in your brains is those paths in your brains start to get upgraded. Think of it as going from a mud path to a paved highway. At first, when these things happen in your brain and you're going down two paths at once, okay? It's a dirt path, but repeated use turns them into a paved path. And then that paved path can become a 4-lane highway, an interstate with big old signs that are blaring saying, this is the way. Follow the signs. Well, that is what's called Hebb's Law in just plain language. When the same brain cells light up in the brain together, okay, I'm going to give you that photo so you understand when I say the brain lights up. When the same brain cells light up together again and again and again, what happens is they start acting familial. They start acting like family or close neighbors who put a shared shortcut between their houses. Soon one neighbor flipping on the porch light and going outside is enough that the other neighbor sees it and they'll come outside. The brain isn't doing this trick to you. It's just trying to be efficient. That's how it works. And what the brain sees in this as efficiency, it basically anchors those two things together. That's Hebb's Law. Neurons that fire together, wire together. It's all about trying to make it easier the next time. Now, if you were to think about Velcro versus smooth fabric, the first time you pair the two things like stress and let's say a certain news feed, the hooks are barely there. But each time you repeat the pairing, right, you are actually sewing on more hooks and more loops, and the connection sticks faster and harder. Eventually, just seeing an app icon can tug at the stress response, or hearing a certain song can pull you into a calmer mood. This is an example of circuits that have been stitched together through repetition. Stitched together through repetition. Now, why does that sound familiar to you? This is exactly, okay, This is exactly what the system does in your brain, in your mind, to make all of these things stitch together. It is a stitching process. Now, this is just brain science. The problem with this is it can be done without your approval. It can be done to you. Now, the system knows this. You might think of it as learned behavior or Trump derangement syndrome, but it's actually a chemical weapon in your brain. This is why I'm even doing this topic, so you understand what the system has done, and that the system has weaponized brain chemistry. I'll give you an example of anchor to anchor, anchor to anchor, and ingraining that Velcro, giving it more teeth each time it's said.
Let me ask you tonight, do you think Donald Trump is a fascist?
Yes, I do.
This is what kicking the shit out of fascism looks like.
Try to prevent the spread of the lawlessness and the fascist chaos that's been unleashed against us.
So when we say Donald Trump is a fascist, fascism, a huge component of fascism, is uniting racism, bigotry, a form of racist nationalism.
We are now living in a fascist dictatorship.
We are worried about potential rise of fascism in this country. We're worried about our democracy falling to an authoritarian and potentially fascist form of government.
Not only to roll over to Donald Trump's will, but to roll over our democracy and allow him to take over this country as a fascist dictator.
When fascism isn't just coming, it's already here.
The former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mark Milley, said, "No one has ever been more dangerous to this country than Donald Trump, and he is a fascist to his core."
Okay, that is the process. That's just one example. It's like after Donald Trump got elected, all of the Democrats, it's the machines, they stole the election. That carried through to the right's operation on your mind, because the right amplified and focused on the same thing. It's the machines that stole the election, because they needed you thinking about the machines. They need you thinking, oh, it was Venezuela and he used this to steal his elections. And you go, damn right, lock him up. When you can't prosecute due to anything in Venezuela. See, you throw all logic out the door when this particular type of warfare is applied. And I'm trying to, you see, once you realize it, you can unstitch it from the brain, right? You can unstitch it from the brain. And so part of what I try to do in my broadcast is to help you see where these things got stitched together. And once you recognize them, you can actually, through repetition, unstitch them. Now, this particular process, by the way, good news, it works both ways. Why do you think my show opening talks about giving you a mental enema? Always tell you that we're fighting this crap together, culture, race, and American politics, the unholy trinity. You can redevelop new habits to fix this, but it takes diligence and repetition. That's how it works. How it works. And so the reality, and again, we're talking about the prefrontal cortex. I'm intentionally keeping this simple so you understand it. We're talking the difference between the left and the right. See, your prefrontal cortex, think of it as the air traffic control tower of your mind. It does not produce planes. It produces emotions and urges and impulses. It doesn't produce planes. It just coordinates them. It keeps them spaced out, apart. It helps you decide which one gets priority. And, okay, it prevents collisions. When that tower in your brain is well staffed, you can think ahead, you can stay patient, you can resist temptations, and you get to choose your response instead of reacting. Think about how many agents and stuff are deployed in social media on the conservative side that instead of trying to help you understand how everything works, oh, we got to get ropes, we got to hang them, we got to shoot them, we got to form militia. This is the wiring of your brain they're doing on purpose. I'm trying to undo some of that wiring. Now, let's just kind of picture a normal morning, okay? You check your phone just for a minute. And you look at it in your feed and stuff, and it's a reel of disasters and outrage and fear. One connection you should make. You can see the plain truth and know how things are done. And then the media shows you nobody's paying attention, or even on the right, they're going a different direction. That's not by accident. That is by design. Because you got to have that rage emotion response instead of the calmness of truth. They've got to get you yelling and screaming at the TV and at the news. And so in all of this, think about it. What happens is for every headline you see, that's like in your, remember I told you, your prefrontal cortex is air traffic control. It keeps everything spaced evenly. It decides what gets priority. It prevents collisions. It's well staffed. Well, every time you see those outrage posts, those disaster posts, the fear post, think of it as a small emergency flare has been shot up into the control tower. Now, one flare isn't a big deal, but if you're under a steady stream of flares, of attacks, what it does to your system is it tells your system to stay on alert. It tells your system to stay on alert. Here's how you'll understand it. The photo on the left is a healthy brain. The photo on the right is a psychotic brain. If you can keep people on alert and you can keep people in worry and fear, you can take the brain on the left and you can turn it into the brain on the right. I want to say that again. The brain on the left is a normal brain. If the system can keep you in chaos, keep you yelling at the screen, keep you in fear, keep playing that fear out there, and you wonder why nobody's enforcing the law, you cannot avoid those flares to your air traffic control. Enough of those flares, what happens is your brain on the right takes over and you shut off your prefrontal cortex. You don't logically know you're doing this. So when those conservative podcasters, because you're naturally going to embrace that the left does this. When those conservative podcasters tell you it's the Jews or Jewish people or get a rope or hang them or get your guns or militia, it is part of the system because it works in unison. Remember, in the elections, the Dems, it was Russia, it was foreign countries, it was the machines. Come to 2020, it was foreign countries that went to China, it was the machines. It is all to turn this off, and what happens is it turns you to primal instinct. I'm going to keep on showing the picture because I think it's important for you to understand this. Now, what happens is negative news absolutely raise negative mood and worry. Period. When you consume that negative worry, what happens is you have what's called a prime cortisol stress reaction. It's interesting. Your body doesn't feel stressed. You don't recognize this. Your brain stresses. Now, you don't immediately feel it because the brain's making up for it, using its resources, doing its best to keep you calm. But those resources can be used up, okay? So what happens here is when stress chemistry, that's what it's called, stress chemistry. See, it's not that just your body's stressed or your emotions stressed, and it's not that you don't just feel stressed. Here's what it does. Your brain naturally reorganizes its priorities. Yep. Now, under acute stress, you get surges in norepinephrine or dopamine and later cortisol. That's how it works. And what it does is it breaks down the network efficiency. You see the breakdown on the right. It starts to break the wall. Think of it as a little up in the blue on the right-hand side. It kind of starts there, and then it necrotizes. It works down your brain. We have all the science in the world that does this. But what happens is it starts to weaken your memory. It weakens your cognitive flexibility. And what it does is it makes, ready for this, self-control harder. Now, this is the warfare that we're under. This is why I'm covering this. I want you to stick with me, okay? Because I'm showing you how the unholy trinity, media, academia, and government work together because they create out-of-control monsters. You see it everywhere. And I'm going to explain to you why the science and why it matters, plus now the system has been weaponized. All of you went through this when everybody screamed it was the machines or Antifa call, and you fought for that. And then you found out it was BS. That's the ride back and forth. Or you were expecting PCAPs. Or, by the way, you're infuriated that Tina Peters is in prison. It is all the deployment of the weapon. Now, your brain starts working on this. Acute stress, because that's what you're going under. It tends to impair working memory and what's called cognitive flexibility. What it does is it nudges you, everybody, into the automatic. You become what's called a reactive model. You wonder why people start fighting and 10 kids jump on and start kicking. It is taught to them by continually replaying it and connecting it. This is the most sinister weapon in the world that we have against us. What happens is, your tower, your brain tower is still there, but it has no crew left. It's working with a skeleton crew while the alarm keeps going off. Now comes the second half of the day. You'll understand this when you understand young minds. It's now people into their 30s and 40s are still doing it. I've never done it. Work and life is stressful enough. But when you literally get on that automatic, and let's say you see all this media crap and you go to work or school and you come home to unwind. Let me tell you about the unwind. A large majority of people in our nation unwind with video games. And the vast majority of these video games are violent, high intensity, stressful games. Why do you see thugs holding their weapons side style? Why do you see them riding high and sticking out of the cars? It all comes from the video game, the message they were filled with. And so they anchored that with what? They anchored it with relaxing. They get home, they're all stressed out. They just want to relax. So what they're doing is they're relaxing, they think, but they're anchoring it with violent games. What happens? You begin to think that type of violence is relaxing and what you should do. This is what happens. That's how it impairs cognitive flexibility. See, all games aren't automatically bad. You know, you can find studies each way. But there is an association to the response inhibition in working memory. What they do is when you connect a lot of these, and I'm only using stress and games so you understand this. In the studies, you find out that it reduces activation in the frontal regions that require tasks that specifically require inhibition. You lose your inhibition. You're twerking on cop cars. You have to understand this is all by design. So what happens is your prefrontal cortex loses what's called the stop signal. What happens is the prefrontal cortex is a muscle that does very fine motor control. High arousal media is like putting on thick gloves. You can still do things, but the delicate task of life, patience, nuances, impulse control, empathy in argument, resisting late night binging, it's harder because the gloves are on. And what happens is this violent and chaos and fear content keeps the brain in what's called a fast twitch reflex. And what that means is scan for a threat, act now, you get reward, relief later, repeat. And that's why you can see people in all of these crowds, well, he dissed me, he disrespected me, and it elicits violence because the part of the brain that allows you to keep with that has been synthetically turned off. Now you combine this, you're going to find things like, your tower control is not only a skeleton crew, but it has a skeleton crew trying to traffic in your brain, but some son of a bitch keeps on pulling the fire alarm. And so you got to go see what this fire alarm is. That's how this psychology works. People get shorter fuses. Shorter fuses gets them restless, weirded out when things are quiet. They can't be quiet because they need the stimulation. This is what happens with repeated, prolonged stress activation. Now, when you understand constant negative media keeps your threat systems warmed up. When somebody tells you we got to get 30,000 people and march down and break Tina Peters free, that is by system design. They just need you to go to the next step. It's Ray Epps in the crowd. We're all going in. We're all going in. They give you a surrogate traffic cop that you trust. Of course, they wouldn't lead me to do bad things. This is how it works. And so what happens when you're pummeled with constant negative media? It keeps your threat system warmed up. Remember, the image on the left is a healthy brain. The image on the right is the shutting down of the prefrontal cortex. There's a process for this on purpose. Now, what happens is the planner, the brake pedal, the air traffic controller, your prefrontal cortex, it basically spends a tremendous amount of time underpowered. Now, what if you stay in this mode? You ready for this? It can become permanent. It's called brain shrinkage. If you can do it long enough and you can sustain it long enough, it literally changes your brain. And what happens is that mind becomes a reactive mind. It no longer regulates. Now, to work against this, you have to literally give your brain power again. You know, it's interesting, and it's a true phenomenon. It not only affects your brain, but it's called dendritic cycling. I'll let you think of this. Dendritic is a good example if you were to cut a log and look at the tree circles. It just kind of radiates out. Not only does it actually destroy your brain and shrink it, it radiates through your body that it even affects your spine and your spinal fluids. That's how sinister this is. And you never took a drug, or you didn't think you took a drug. And what happens is, as this continues to happen, your cortex becomes thinner. It has a reduced thickness. That thinner that you see is how they cut off your prefrontal cortex. Every bit of this is measured by what's called brain volumetric changes. Your prefrontal cortex literally goes offline. See, warring in ancient days would create this, or dinosaurs trying to eat your ass, or warring parties. The problem is they've now learned how to do it through technology and media. And so they don't have to run warring parties or raiding parties, because you're consuming it voluntarily. I'll give you just a prime example. You follow people, you know that Tina Peters should not be in prison. And I stand by the fact she's not in prison because of Tina Peters. She's in prison because other people did it, and it was a planned setup, and they needed an example. That's why it's a Gold Star mom who lost a Navy SEAL son, whose husband was incapacitated, eventually died. It's all by design. It's all very highly targeted. Because you get indignant for Tina, you get upset. Those same people that did it now try to reverse, because you remember where it comes from. All of a sudden, they're heroes. We're saving her. We're freeing her. That's to erase what they did, while at the same time saying, we got to get troops. We've got to get the government. We've got to get the Navy SEALs in there. That's how they work these traumas together. That's why I'm talking about this. It's all about the prefrontal cortex. And the system has learned through social media how to cut this off. And it's by repeated, prolonged elevation. What happens is if they can create in you this cortical thinning, the volume of brain differences, then you have impaired executive control. When you get to the stage of impaired executive control, then you become that wild ass ape escaping from the zoo, raging in the streets, lashing out at everybody. Right? Get it? Now, what happens is this has happened across young generations now. That's why there's no inhibition to sex. That's why there's no inhibitions to having sex with minors. This is exactly the formula that turned every Palestinian citizen, Hamas, all these guys, it's what turned their children into non-thinking, angry, violent, brutal, primal warriors. Now, of course, medications can help this. I'd never recommend it because you can do it yourself. Take off your socks and shoes, walk outside, plant your feet on the ground, count to 60. And you've done the same thing. This is 100% by design. There are no lefts and right, Democrats and Republicans. It's all about mass control. And they'll get control one way or another. I started telling you years ago, they're going to offer you Satans. And you're going to follow those Satans without worrying about the system. The Soroses, all those other ones. Those are not the real bad guys. When you understand this psychology of weaponizing the brain to make the monster, to make the zombie idiots that just follow what the system says, then you truly grasp what's going on and what has happened. You have to diligently work to undo this. When you sit on a podcast and you listen to somebody who's intentionally lying to you, don't worry, the media is in control or the military's in control. Think about 2020. President Trump's still president, and they put that in your brain. You trust it. Why'd they put that in your brain? Because every time you saw a newscast, more and more, and things going wrong and illegals running across the border, what happened? You got freaking pissed. I thought the military was in control. You understand how that works now? You gave your trust to somebody you could never audit and see. You released the control mechanism to them. They told you, don't worry, the military's in charge. They have it all. President Trump's in charge. I laugh about this because President Trump and I had this discussion and laughed about it. And him saying, I'm not the president. I've got to win president again, and the military's not in charge. Think of how many people told you that. See, what happens is, since you're not doing critical thinking, you're willing to give that critical thinking steering wheel in your air traffic control over to somebody else. In the guise of being a hero and saving you, you're lulled into trust. But then as you watch the media, which is part of it, it goes hand in hand. And every time you see all the illegals running across the border or shooting police, and you're thinking to yourself, the military is supposed to be in control. You get angry. You get fearful. You're in chaos. Now, what they tell you to keep you in control, don't worry, it's part of the plan. Don't worry, it's part of the plan. And you release again. And then you see more shit. And you get angry. And you get pissed. It has all been a con. on every level. Now, what they do in this con is they hope you forget it. Lie, 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 lie. Got the PCAPs, blah, blah, blah. Got all this stuff. Lie, 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 lie. And then when it comes out, it's not there. They hope you forget it. They shift it. In fact, 2 of the people that fed the biggest lies, 3 of the people that fed the biggest lies are now going to run for office. Think about that. It's because they got your trust. This is how it works. I want to give you the clinical name for this, and it's called Hebb's Law. It's a very simple saying. Neurons that fire together, wire together. If you had 2 electrical wires and they were firing and sparking, and they get closer and closer, not only they fire and spark, they eventually weld together. Same function. And so what happens when your brain circuits activate the same ways repeatedly, the synapse, that's the connection between them, begins to strengthen. Over time, that makes that pathway more likely to activate again in the future. We're going to save her. We're going to save her. We got it all. We got all the proof. We got all the proof. You're consuming fear. You bind your fear response because you don't want to feel fear. You give them your trust. We got it all. You're going to see it in all 3,000 counties. And it brings these 2 together and it wires them. And then you have the inability to sever that wire quickly. Well, I trust them. There's a bit, that's not really true. Well, they really didn't say they didn't have them. Well, get it? That's the con, folks. And once they can do this repeatedly, continually, over time, it makes that pathway more likely to activate again in the future. Well, I should be governor. Do you get it yet? Let me show you. I'll give you a very short recap because I want you to get this. I'm going to give another input for your eyes to see to get it.
Did you know that scientific studies show that people who are chronically negative and judgmental actually are starting to shrink their own brains? Miss Emma, how is that possible? Well, Jimmy, I'm so grateful that you asked. Numerous neuroimaging studies, it shows that in animals and in humans that the cortisol that is being released into your brain every time you are being a negative little Nancy, which cortisol is the part of our brain that is the stress hormone, that cortisol is actually starting to shrink your prefrontal cortex, which is the part of your brain that is in charge of all of your emotional regulation, your decision making, and your ability to focus. And let's all think about Hebb's Law when we're reframing this, because Hebb's Law suggests that neurons that fire together wire together, which suggests that every time that you are inhibiting a negative behavior or a thought, that you are actually starting to strengthen the neurological pathways in your brain that create a pattern, which in turn creates a habit of being able to see all of the negative things around you. And so much so that it becomes second nature. And most importantly, the tip of this pretty little iceberg is that research also suggests that negative people are more unattractive. So that unless you want to be ugly and you want the IQ of a toddler in a tiara, that I suggest that you fix that little attitude problem, princess.
Yeah, it's true. Let me give you a little more scientific one. And I want you to understand, this is why, this works on all sides. This is why you can't click your finger to unfollow someone. And it works both ways. Just like they attacked us in the audit, they get you to that point, you believe them, you go click, unclick. It's a process. That's where they take over your free will, tell you what to do, and you will ignore evidence right in front of you. It is exactly using the brain as a weapon. Here's a more detailed medical description.
Welcome to our deep dive into one of the most fascinating parts of the human brain, the prefrontal cortex. Situated just behind your forehead, this powerhouse of the brain is where your personality, decisions, and emotions come to life. Have you ever wondered what makes you, well, you? Let's uncover the secrets hidden in the prefrontal cortex and explore how it shapes our daily lives.
Imagine a command center overseeing a bustling city that's the prefrontal cortex in your brain. Located right behind your forehead, the PFC is the mastermind behind your behavior, orchestrating your thoughts, decisions, and emotions. It's not just a brain part, it's the birthplace of your personality and the core of your planning skills.
The PFC isn't just sitting idly in your head. It's constantly at work, regulating behavior, mediating conflicting thoughts, and steering your choices between right and wrong. Have you ever stopped yourself from making an impulsive decision or thought about the consequences of an action? That's your prefrontal cortex in action. It even plays a role in suppressing emotional or sexual urges, maintaining social control. It's where we process data from our senses and decide how to act, making it central to our consciousness, intelligence, and personality.
Let's talk functionality. The PFC is your brain's strategic planner, focusing your thoughts, enabling you to learn, and keeping you concentrated on your goals. It juggles different lines of thinking, houses your working memory, and is crucial in short-term and long-term decision-making. Ever planned a holiday or strategized in a game? That's the PFC at work. It's also why you can balance immediate rewards with long-term goals, acting as the seat of good judgment.
The prefrontal cortex is a testament to human evolution. Over millions of years, it has expanded remarkably, indicating its critical role in our development as a species. While the overall brain size has tripled in the last 5 million years, the PFC has grown sixfold. This disproportionate growth highlights its importance in what makes us uniquely human.
The prefrontal cortex is a testament to human evolution. Over millions of years, it has expanded remarkably, indicating its critical role in our development as a species. While the overall brain size has tripled in the last 5 million years, the PFC has grown sixfold. This disproportionate growth highlights its importance in what makes us uniquely human.
Unlike other parts of the brain that are fully developed early in life, the prefrontal cortex takes its time. It's the last brain section to mature, completing its development around the age of 25. This late growth observed through MRI studies explains a lot about teenage behavior. Yes, that's right, the reason teenagers sometimes engage in risky behaviors isn't just rebellion, it's also a matter of brain development. The PFC's late maturation means adolescents might not fully grasp the long-term consequences of their actions.
The prefrontal cortex, vital as it is also vulnerable. Damage to the PFC can lead to significant personality changes. Imagine a reserved individual becoming impulsive or an outgoing person turning withdrawn. This is because the PFC is intricately connected to behavior and thought processing pathways. Damage here can impair a person's ability to assess situations or make moral and ethical decisions, leading to inappropriate behavior, emotional distress, and even mental health issues.
Ever wondered why we behave the way we do in social situations? The PFC plays a key role here. It helps us discern appropriate behavior and make social judgments. Interestingly, studies have found weak connections between the PFC and other brain regions in individuals like criminals, sociopaths, and drug addicts. This suggests a crucial link between a well-functioning prefrontal cortex and our ability to make sound decisions and behave in socially acceptable ways.
Let's bring the prefrontal cortex down to earth. Imagine you're deciding whether to eat a healthy meal or indulge in fast food, or perhaps you're resolving a conflict at work. In these everyday situations, your PFC is actively at work, helping you weigh options and foresee consequences. It's the silent partner in your daily life, guiding your choices and interactions.
Can we improve our prefrontal cortex's health? Absolutely. Regular exercise, a nutritious diet, mental challenges, and sufficient sleep can all contribute to a healthier, more efficient PFC. By taking care of your overall health, you're also nurturing this crucial brain region.
The prefrontal cortex remains a frontier for scientific exploration. With advancements in neuroscience and technology, researchers continue to unravel the mysteries of the PFC. Who knows what secrets we'll uncover in the future? The potential for new discoveries that could revolutionize our understanding of the human brain is immense.
We've covered a lot about the prefrontal cortex, but there's always more to learn. Have any questions or thoughts? Share them.
Here's the bottom line. I gave you the formula. We all possess the chemicals that will fix or heal our body or mitigate pain or whatever. God made it in us. The system learned how to mix those naturally occurring drugs in our body to shut off our brain. We are so far down this road that the system of what they're doing to us in our great republic is they're creating a crop of zombies and psychopaths. And this is why you see what's going on in the news, because it allows them to rewire brains, but they keep you in chaos and fear, which they need as well, because it may eventually infect you or yours. Now you have the science, now you have the history, you can see it. It all begins with you deciding, unfortunately, which side you're on. And when you don't take steps to take over your air traffic control in your prefrontal cortex, they still own you. And now maybe, hopefully, this helps you understand everything that's been going on. I'm going to hop over to locals next. I'm going to give you some numbers about dead voters in Maricopa County, Arizona, that are going to floor you. These are numbers and information you haven't heard before, down to the exact detail. Share this program, folks. Help people break free. I'll see you on the other side.
Our courts are based on clear and convincing evidence. Want convictions? Want justice? For what happened in the 2020 election? Then we need your help. Not fixing 2020 will damn our nation forever. The decision you make in the next few moments could decide whether we ever get our elections fixed or not. Here's why. Trump campaign and allies filed 64 different lawsuits. They all went down in flames. 100% of these cases were presented on "It's the machines," or "The machines changed the votes," or "The voting company executive said he would make sure Donald J. Trump would not win." They all went down in flames. Why? You can't bring theories to court as evidence. No supposed Zoom call or six-degree polynomial math theory or census data is or ever will be proof of fraud. You can't bring theories to court as evidence. Here's why. In both civil and criminal law, the side making a claim carries the burden of proof, and prosecutors must prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Without physical or otherwise verifiable evidence, a case cannot meet this high threshold. Physical evidence is the key. The question is, did anyone get relevant, reliable, provable, testable, and duplicatable evidence of what really happened in the 2020 general election? And the answer is yes, absolutely. The full forensic audit of Maricopa County, Arizona is the only evidence-gathering work which gathered relevant, reliable, provable, testable, and duplicatable evidence of what really happened in the 2020 general election. Evidence so damning that the system, the deep state, and those who pulled the strings of this country have fought to keep it hidden and have hoped to have it be forgotten to time. Almost $3 million invested in time, funds, and efforts to unlock that which the system wanted hidden. But now, that evidence is in danger of being lost forever. So if you want what happened in the 2020 election fixed, then we need your help. Please donate to protect and secure this historic evidence. With the 2026 midterms coming up, the system is going to try to lame duck President Trump. and then most likely introduce new impeachment proceedings. This is the evidence which will help win the war which is surely to come. We need to keep Maricopa County full forensic investigation and archives secure and ongoing. So if you want what happened in the 2020 election fixed, then we need your help. Please donate to protect and secure this historic evidence. We need your help securing the full forensic audit archives. Don't allow the only testable, objective, and reliable 2020 election evidence fall into obscurity. Millions were spent on getting it documented and tested. This is historic evidence. Not fixing 2020 will damn our nation forever. The historic Maricopa County full forensic audit effort processed 20,895,610 digital and forensic images of varying formats, resulted in 208 million individual evidence-proof files. The system processed over 58 billion forensic measurements, resulting in over 2 trillion individual base computations. No hopium, no hype, just hardcore forensic evidence. Please make sure the Maricopa County full forensic audit archives survive. Donate now. So if you want what happened in the 2020 election fixed, then please donate to protect and secure this historic evidence. We can't do it without you. We need you. America needs you. Our future needs you. Please donate now. Not fixing 2020 will damn our nation forever. Please donate now.